So I get a lot of questions from viewers and potential customers asking if detailing services and protection services are really worth it on a used car. If you've been watching this channel or following for a while, you'll know that I often work on mostly new cars, bringing them in, doing a correction from day one, protecting them with ceramic coatings for years to come. But I often get asked, what do you do with used cars? For one, is it worth it? Can you still protect it? Did I screw up in waiting? Did I screw up in buying a used car? And arguably, I would say it's almost more impactful to do it on a used vehicle. You see, something like this 2021 Porsche Taycan has already depreciated in value from its original sticker price. This particular one has 13,000 miles on it, and it definitely needs some love. So we're gonna be doing basically the whole process you guys have seen with new vehicles, but on a used vehicle. What that means is a little bit more work, more grime, more dirt, more scratches. So today we're gonna be going through this, doing a full paint correction, a polish, ceramic coating, the paint, wheels, all of the trim, and of course, heavily focusing on the interior, getting it absolutely dialed in. So if you're interested in this, stay tuned. This is gonna be a fun one. Welcome back to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Let's jump into it. Well, I am super excited for this particular detail. This is actually the first Taycan we have had on the out of spec detailing channel, and only my second Taycan that I've actually ever detailed, and I really do love these cars. First off, I'm a huge Porsche enthusiast, probably my favorite brand in the entire car market. I just love working on Porsches, their precision, the attention to detail that you can tell they put into these vehicles. I just love working on them, being so up close to them. You really get, the idea that they actually care about what they're building. So I'm super excited for that. So this particular car you may have seen over on the Out of Spec Reviews channel and on Out of Spec Motoring. We've used this for many different tests. This has been on Race to Vegas, and it's been a little bit abused, if you will, and that's exactly why it's here, to get this thing looking as good as humanly possible. So this 2021 Taycan has 13,000 miles on it. It was purchased at Porsche Mechanicsburg over on the East Coast, and it's now here. Now this particular car lives outside, so we're dealing with a lot of environmental stuff on the paint. We're dealing with a lot of tree sap, iron particles, and it's just overall pretty darn dirty. Hasn't really had a huge detail. Now the cool thing with this car is when our friend of Out of Spec purchased this particular vehicle, it was, I believe, one of the cheapest Taycans in the country. Super low miles, great spec on this, really the range spec, and these were not the wheels it came on. We may be swapping over to those later in the video. But this is Porsche's Neptune Blue, unbelievable color. I can't wait to get this thing corrected because this color is just absolutely stunning. We've got a flat roof here, no glass, beautiful interior in this one, and a really driver's vehicle. And I just really, really appreciate the spec on this, so I'm very excited for it. So before we get too far into actually detailing it, let me walk you around the car, show you a few areas and a few things that I'm noticing and keeping thoughts on, and then we'll actually get into the detailing process. Now I am gonna start this off by starting on the interior. It is slightly dirty, a little bit filthy, if you will, especially in the carpet area. It's not horrible, but I use this particular technique to get the dirt out of the carpets, which kind of makes a mess of the car. So I'm gonna focus on that area first, then we'll get into washing, paint correction, coatings, the whole 9 yards. You'll see it all here. So let's jump into this. So let's walk around the car and get kind of a general idea of the current condition of it. We're not gonna pull out the lights quite yet. We'll do that after we wash it, see what kind of scratches and imperfections we have in the paint. But let's just overall look at the current condition of this vehicle. So right off the bat, noticing here, we've got a lot of water spots on the paint. We've also got quite a bit of tree sap in areas like this. And you'll notice all of these little white specks. Now those are actually not rock chips. Not exactly sure what these are. You can see them kind of everywhere here. They look like little pimples. They do look like rock chips, but I'm telling you they're not. So let me take this one for example. See, I can kind of just sit here and scrape that area off. So I'm gonna go in here with a clay bar after we get it washed, get all of that removed so that doesn't interfere with our buffing cycle. But this color is absolutely stunning. Love the sculpted body on the Taycan, how it picks up light, and Neptune blue on this is absolutely gorgeous. Now, this being a used vehicle, the car that's been on the road on big road trips, we do have a few rock chips up front here, but I would say within reason, nothing too bad. Areas like this, I'm noticing we've got a little rock chip here. I do have touch-up paint for this particular color code, and I'll show you guys a quick snippet on how to do that. I will have a video maybe separately that I do on this particular car, touching it up. I'm also noticing we have a massive rock chip here, a huge impact. Now, just looking at this, I am thinking that this paint is going to be hard. The reason I say that is a rock that hits that typically would make a little bit different impression there if it was softer or medium soft paint, if you will. Now this, typically when you have hard paint like this, it really takes off a huge section of paint. So initially going into this, I'm going, okay, the paint seems like it's gonna be pretty hard. I've also looked at this car under my scan grip lights and have noticed not a ton of scratches, which I'm surprised about. So initial thoughts going in here, the paint's gonna be hard. We may have to throw a lot of compound at it, but it's going to be easier to finish out. Now we'll see how that goes. That's just my initial thoughts, but we will definitely see how that goes once we get into the compound and polishing stage. Down here, I've already removed the license plate, tons of dirt under here, and I hate to see these bumper holes. Working on a solution to try and make this look a little bit better, as we are not wanting a front plate on this particular car. Now just overall, we've got a lot of dirt on this thing. Like I said, this has been on road trips. This car lives outside. So you can see we just have dirt coming out of every single nook and cranny down here on the lower fascia. Just tons of dirt, tons of water spots, but actually very happy to see not a ton of rock chips. So we will be touching up the ones I do find, but look at like the toe eye there, how much dirt's coming out of there. Moving around to the front of the vehicle, noticing, okay, nope, that's just like a spider web or something like that. But overall, it's just a little bit dirty. Again, we have environmental stuff like this, just tree sap. It kind of stinks to work with this stuff. You either have to kind of go in and scrape that as I did there, or use some chemicals. We'll kind of see as we go into the wash phase of how this is gonna work. We do here have quite a large rock chip here on the windshield. So I will be extremely careful not to press against this glass and expand that, as I don't believe this has even been filled. Now here in the cowl, we've got a bunch of leaves in this area. Let me actually pop the frunk open here. We can take a look under here. So not too bad under here, definitely dirty. We're gonna get all of this coated. We'll clean up the whole under frunk here. All of this dirt and grime we definitely have to get out. Noticing something weird here. Well, I say weird, but this is something I see a lot on Porsches. Notice this plastic piece here. So once you remove these, they get wavy like this. It's very strange. It's almost like they shrink. Yeah, definitely need to work on this. Noticing like these pins aren't even in up here. So I will likely take this out, clean everything up, and try to get it in quite a bit better than it currently is. Moving around the side of the vehicle, again, just general dirt and grime, seeing a lot of water spotting here, which is very common on Taycan because you have this huge vent that basically any times it rains, you're just getting this huge wake of dirt and grime down the entire side of the car. Overall though, not super concerned with this detail, but I do know it is gonna turn out absolutely stunning. I love Porsche paint. I love their colors. I'm so glad this isn't a boring silver or black here like this Model S and my current Model 3, but we do have tons and tons of water spots, especially here on the glass. The camera's having a little bit of hard time picking that up, so we will be working on this. May have to polish it, may hand polish it, may even have to use some acid on it. Don't freak out about that. It is totally safe if used properly. And inside here, what a nice place to be, of course. Now, I am going to be starting this detail, as I said before, starting with the interior first. As you can see, we've just got a good layer of dirt within the carpets. So what I like to do on used vehicles, more than a new vehicle, is actually start on the interior first. Now I use this process to remove the dirt basically by air compression, and it kind of releases all that dirt instead of just scrubbing it in there or something that a vacuum can't pick up. Now what that does is basically takes all of that, puts it all over the car. So I like to do this first on a used vehicle, get all that dirt out, just kind of make it really nasty beforehand, and then go back and clean everything up. So interior here, nothing too bad, just general dirt and grime. Noticing here on the seat, you can see this kind of edge here. Looks like maybe some water got into there. We'll focus heavily on the seats, of course. Getting all of this shiny material out and getting them clean, because they're not super clean here, but they're also not terrible. Glad to see the side bolsters look almost nearly perfect, except for here on this driver's side. I'm hoping once I get this cleaned up and kind of relax that material, this may go back slightly. We'll kind of see. But you can see just a ton of dirt. Look at the color difference here. Very, very dirty, of course, but not the end of the world. Back seat looks like barely anybody has ever even sat in this car. Door panels look very clean. So I think overall, interior wise, doesn't need a ton, just needs to be cleaned up and kind of refreshed. So liking what I'm seeing there, and definitely excited to get started on this. So I think let's now throw on a time lapse. I'm going to start on the interior, get the carpets done, clean all of the seats, and then we'll start our wash process and move it in here to the detail bay. You can see Kyle's Model S Plaid that I just refinished here, looking absolutely stunning. So this was an 18,000 mile car that has been through multiple accidents, lots of road trips, lots of abuse, and looks incredible. So we're gonna make this look just good as this. Spent the better part of the last hour and a half, 2 hours tidying up the interior, and we are nowhere near complete on the inside. We still, of course, have glass, and of course, I need to go through, clean all the screens. There's also a few areas that I'm going to run you through here that I'd like to kind of tidy up a little bit more. But man, this interior really cleaned up well. Now, one of the biggest areas I would say I still want to work on a little bit is this driver's seat. It is still a little on the shiny side. It's not bad, and we've decreased it a lot. We've also got a lot of dirt and grime out of here, but I would like to probably come in here with a little bit stronger cleaner and really clean this up. Now, I'll tell you from experience, perforated seats are a lot trickier to clean. They also hold dirt very differently. Of course, you can get crumbs in all of the perforations, which I'll go through probably later and show you. But the big initial step right now was to get, okay, let's get the dirt and grime out of the carpets. Let's get the initial clean done. And man, this interior is feeling a heck of a lot better. You'll notice here, steering wheel looking a lot more satin, very shiny to start off with, but looking proper. All the door panels look fantastic. This is the way this should look, not shiny, not anything like that. And in all honesty, I don't really condition seats or leather at all anymore. Keeping this regimen of wiping it down, I've made videos on it in the past, is really the way to go. But back seat looking fantastic. Literally looks like nobody has ever sat here. You'll see little areas like this where maybe there was a little bit of a cleaner residue left over. That's what I'm talking about. All those little details, cleaning little vents and things like this will all get fixed. Now, I do want to bring you over here to the passenger side and talk quickly about this seat. If you remember, we had this big wrinkle stain or whatever it was in here, which I believe to be something was spilled or something like that. Again, here's more of that residue coming down here. It looks like we got most of that out. I want to let everything dry completely and then come back and check that. If it didn't get that stain out, I'll probably come in here and lightly steam the bottom of the seat, and we may end up doing that here on the driver's seat if I feel it actually needs it. But much improved on the interior here. Really well taken care of. Just a little bit of dirt, a little bit of grime, nothing out of the ordinary though. Again, these door panels just came out super nice, but still a few things to go still on the inside. So next steps now, we're gonna get this thing washed up. So I'm gonna get my buckets filled over here, my clear water, my wash buckets. I am not gonna really touch any of this black plastic trim other than around these areas where the paint is. I'm not gonna focus heavily on cleaning them. Now, the reason being is once this gets washed, it's gonna move over here into the detail bay, and we're gonna start paint correction. Now, when we do paint correction, we have a ton of compound dust coming off, which is this white powder that just gets into every nook and cranny. So it doesn't really make sense for me to clean all these areas now, only to have to clean them later. So the process from now, we're gonna wash it, do our decon, definitely clay this thing, get it paint corrected. It's gonna then come back out here and get re-washed to get all of that compound powder out. That's when we're gonna clean up areas like this all around, all the black areas that need to be cleaned. And we will also focus on wheels. Now I'm hoping to go get the other wheels, but I will be cleaning up the suspension, of course, wheel wells and things like that in here. We'll run through all of that as we go, but let's get her washed. Well, you joined me the following morning of the last clip you just saw. So to quickly run you through what I did a full wash process. I also lightly dried the car and sprayed a product called Geon Tar on here to really start eating away at all of the tree sap contamination that we had on the paint. I also did a clay mitt on here. When I pulled it into the bay here, this morning I was looking at it and there were still all of those white marks, still a ton of really heavily baked on tree sap and things like that. So I went ahead and actually clayed it. Now, very important to do this for a couple of reasons. Now, a lot of new cars actually skip claying on because they don't necessarily need it. I know this is quite a controversial statement. I really only use clay on heavy contaminated used vehicles like this. Now, new vehicles can have contamination on them, so that is something to consider, but typically I find putting more scratches into it, which clay actually does, and I'll show you a few areas and examples of that, is not really worth it on a new car. So I'll deal with a little bit more pad contamination and residue and deal with that on a new vehicle. But something like this that had such heavy contamination, such heavy tree sap and tar and environmental things really embedded in the paint, I really needed to get those removed. So you'll actually look at the paint here and go, man, this thing looks awesome. And then you get out the scan grip light and start noticing all of these swirl marks, all of these scratches. Just quickly walk around the vehicle here. Now, I'm actually decently surprised that there's not more scratches. Again, my thought process is, okay, maybe this car has some really hard paint. We'll kind of see once we get into it. Noticing a weird rubbing mark right here, some really heavy scratching going on here, probably from closing this door. This will be a tricky area. Of course, I will take paint readings. I'm not going to show that on camera here, but I will take paint readings just to ensure we have enough paint. But you can see areas like this. Hopefully the camera can focus. It's struggling here a bit. That was old tree sap there, and it leaves a little residue behind. Once we paint correct this, all of that is going to go away. So just looking here on the hood, quite a few scratches. You can also see some pitting from areas of contamination and lots of scratches, lots of water spots. Other areas like this over here, little concerning. We've got some pretty deep scratches right here around that light source, all the way down the fender here. So may have to slightly wet sand those if we do have enough paint here. If not, I will correct it, make it look as good as humanly possible. But the Taycan's looking pretty darn sharp now. So overall, I would put the paint condition maybe at a 6 right now. Not horrible. It just needs some love. Really needs that paint correction. So excited to get buffing on this Neptune blue. So I am going to finish claying the roof here to get all this contamination off. You can see areas still like this that remain all of this tree sap. It's really tricky to get off. Sometimes I have to come in here and pick these off, or even use a plastic credit card to kind of pop them from underneath. Again, this has had Geon tar on it. It's been clayed, I guess the first time with a clay mitt, and now this is the second, but still very heavy decontamination that I had to do on this. But let's get paint correcting the Taycan. I've got the entire shop shuffled around now, put the Model 3s back here in the bay, and brought the Taycan back out into the wash area. So you guys just watched me do a full paint correction on this. Obviously I didn't film everything. This was about a 14-hour process, give or take a little bit, just to do the initial compound. I would say easily got about 98% of the scratches, defects removed. Now, I did in a few areas not go crazy in getting the super deep scratches out. What I like to do, so a scratch typically on paint looks like this, and it's very jagged. So basically going in and rounding those corners off and not making it look so apparent. Let me show you what I mean. So up here, this was one of the heavily scratched areas right here. And you'll notice it looks a heck of a lot better. But if you get in here tight, you can definitely see there's still scratches remaining. Now, I did consider having enough paint here. I took paint readings. It was around 4.5 mils in this particular area. So I definitely probably could have wet sanded this area, but I figured, you know what? These scratches aren't super apparent. They'll get better as we polish these out a little bit, and they're not super noticeable. So instead of just grinding this all the way down and leaving little to no paint there, wet sanding it, I said, let's leave a little bit more, because dealing around these charge port areas, you're using these consistently more than like a gas vehicle, right? Because you're charging either every day, every other day, no matter what. I just thought, okay, we need to leave those. Other than that though, this thing is looking stunning. And my kind of inquisition here was that this was going to be very hard paint, and boy was I right. So overall, I had to throw a lot of compound at this, a lot of passes. The paint really reacted well to high speed, high pressure, and heat, which is actually not like something like a Model S over here in a very, very soft non-metallic black likes. It likes to be a little bit less on the compound, very gentle with it, a little bit lower speeds, whereas this was like, give it everything you had. I had to go over multiple times in different areas to get heavy scratches out. So that's why I said I kind of left some of those areas at it. We had to do a very, very heavy compound on this. But the crazy thing is we left little to no haze on here. So polishing this is going to be super simple, and it's just going to take out that last 10% of clarity and gloss and all of that haze that was actually in the paint. So let me just show you here, like on top of this fender. Look how nice this is looking now. Now you will see dust all over this, and that's why it's back out into the wash bay. So all of this white dust here, that's all compound dust, and it just goes every freaking where. So if I open up this back door here, look at this door jamb. Like, just absolutely coats this in a layer of compound dust. So the car gets washed, it gets compounded, re-washed, and then polished. Polish doesn't really make this amount of dust. It will have a light amount of it, but nothing that is super intense, and nothing that you can't kind of blow away or wipe away. So that's the reasoning behind that. And as I told you it would, the Taycan looks dramatically different after the process I just went through off camera. So let me tell you a little bit about what I did just to keep you in the loop. So I re-washed the car, basically just foamed it down and rinsed it off. Now before that, I actually went ahead and cleaned all of the wheel wells in here, so substantially less grime in there. All of that stuff gets buried in all of that carpet. I did clean up the suspension as well with these full face wheels. Very, very challenging to see anything, but now all of that area is clean of crud. If you guys are interested in how to clean those, I do have a video that I previously did on my Model 3 cleaning the suspension. Basically same exact process here, using simple green, some snow foam, and a little bit of scrubbing and elbow grease. So looking phenomenal there. I also went around and cleaned all of this black plastic trim using a simple dilution of Simple Green. Amazing cleaner that I always use. Actually like it a lot better than most of the all-purpose cleaners out there. Heavily dilutable, heavily economical, but most importantly actually works. So all the areas down here, went in and scrubbed those. Looks phenomenal. Also, areas that I considered cleaning, as I told you, were door jambs. And this made a massive difference in here. So getting all of the dirt and grime out of areas like this. Now you will see some rubber seals like this. They really hold on to dirt, very tricky to clean. So I will come back in here with a brush, some all-purpose cleaner, and a rag to actually scoop up all of that. Typically likes to hold on to it even after the wash process. So next, we are really getting in now to the final detailing stages, refining everything. So my next steps are going to be cleaning out all of these cracks and crevices around the car. You may be thinking, well, you just cleaned the door jambs. What do you mean? Well, areas around here, like this, on the actual paint, and let me show you an example. As I open up this charge port here, you'll notice that this is dirty. I'll clean this up later. But all of this residue right here, this is all compound residue, and basically gets built up on every single seam on the vehicle, on the hood here or frunk, all of these edges. I go in there, clean it with basically a towel wrapped credit card with something like isopropyl alcohol or something like that to really eat away that compound. This is a step that a lot of detailers skip, and it makes a huge difference doing that. So I'm gonna go through and do all of that. After I'm done with that, we're gonna do finishing polish, and then it's time for all of the coatings, all of the last details, every single nook and cranny getting tidied up. So let's get all these seams cleaned up now. are all polished up now, ready to go for the actual coating. We're gonna talk about what we're gonna be coating this Taycan with, but what we have gone through now is, you guys just saw me polish the entire Taycan here. The paint is looking truly stunning now. Very happy to see this. You can see just such a pure, nice reflection. Just looking at the doors here, that's what we were going for here. So super pumped with how this thing turned out. Now, I did spend a little bit of time doing some touch-up up front. Now, I had some issues with the touch-up paint. You can see like this spot here, that huge chunk was actually filled in. I had some issues with this touch-up paint being a little thicker than I would have liked. And it seemed to be that maybe when they shipped it out, it had already opened and started to cure inside the bottle. So I had to do what I had to do on this. Also noting here, I did make some custom bumper plugs for this, as I talked about where the license plate was. Not perfect, but I think this looks a heck of a lot better than the actual holes that were in the front end here. You'll actually see these are painted in Neptune blue. Really tricky to do those, but got them dialed in. So after the polish here, I've already got this entire thing wiped down with our coating prep chemical. Basically what that does is takes all of the polishing residue, any oils, anything like that off the paint. So we are looking at naked paint right now, and boy, does it sure look good. So now it's time for coating. So we're gonna be focusing on paint coatings, all of this black plastic trim, but first let's jump into the paint. Now we're gonna be using my go-to coating here, Gyeon Infinite Base Type 1. This is a certified only ceramic coating. The thing I like about this is it's warranted for 5 years. Of course, there are some stipulations to that, but overall, this coating is just top of the top. I absolutely love this stuff. What's cool is it's all serial numbered, so it's one bottle per car. It's a 30 ml bottle. Sometimes I have to crack open a second one if we're doing it on a bigger vehicle, but just absolutely love this product. So let's get it applied. Well, coating day is always one of my favorites. Now we get to see all of the hard work really come together. So we have just coated the paint, of course, with the Gyeon Infinite Base Type 1. Absolutely looks insane, so glossy, so slick. Now it's just gonna be curing as the Taycan sits here. I've also spent a bunch of time coating all of this black plastic trim, which for me is just kind of one of those icing on the cake things. All the way down here on the diffuser, no area left unturned. It just looks incredible. All of these sills on the side here, all of this black plastic trim, all coated in here. Let me pop open the door and show you. So all the way coated into here, all of this plastic area just looks phenomenal. This takes a ton of time to do, but man, does it make just an incredible difference. So areas around the headlight bezels here, all coated. Areas down here, all the way back there. Just everything absolutely dialed. I've also spent a bunch of time here coating underneath the frunk area. All of these plastics super dirty, but look how amazing this thing looks. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video about this part, and I was gonna try and work with this, see if I could get it to be less warped. And something is going on under here. So number one, I cannot fix these whatsoever. Number two, this plastic panel will not seat down low. So I wonder if something's causing this to where it's actually not sitting properly. But nonetheless, we've got all of this coated. Underneath the frunk here, I've cleaned all these little jams to make sure I've got all the dust and dirt and grime, everything out of there. Now we still do have these wheels on. Probably tomorrow morning I'm gonna go get the other set, get those coated and remounted. So really all we have left now, other than the wheels, is jumping into the interior and really focusing on glass. Also, one area I have not coated yet, underneath here on the mirrors. I kind of like to wait until the coating has cured for maybe 24 hours. So probably tomorrow I will get this black plastic trim underneath the mirrors coated. The reason I do that, you always get some residue here on the paint. It is just nearly impossible to not. So I want that coating to cure and reject the top coating or the plastic coating here going on the paint. So man, this Taycan is really starting to come together now. Very, very intricate, especially with all of this black plastic trim. Man, it doesn't look like there's a ton of it, but areas like this going in with all those tiny swabs, getting every last single bit of it. But this paint is truly looking incredible. Man, I can't wait to get this thing totally done. Well, I do apologize for the kind of segmented video here, but you joined me about 5 days since the last clip you just actually saw. Now, it has been hectic here at the shop, and I'll explain a few things that went on, but essentially I had a few other cars to get done, some maintenance washes, actually a full other detail on an Audi S8. So this thing kind of sat on the back burner a little bit. One of the biggest reason being the wheels. So I was waiting on these wheels to get here to get them coated, cleaned up, and really ran into quite a few issues with these wheels because they took me so much longer than I thought they would. Now, the issue being is that these wheels, although they look fantastic now, have already been repainted. And part of the issue was they basically painted them not only the wrong color, but left brake dust here on the inside of the barrel and then painted over it because they didn't mask up, you know, the back side of the wheel when they were fixing areas like this. You can see all of this area here is all satin where it should be glossy here. Notice that fade right there. Really strange what happened with these wheels. So the wheels almost took me a full day to deal with. I tried to polish them, really tried to get them dialed in as much as I could, and I think we did a pretty darn good job. But man, does this car look so much better on these bigger wheels, the non-aero wheels. But man, I really, really like these. So the Taycan turned out fantastic, super pumped with it. The issue was with filming the rest of the finishing details is I would work on this car for about 30 minutes at the end of the day and then just, you know, go home and then have to come back and still work on another car. So it was very segmented. But let me tell you what we've done since the end of the last clip. So of course the paint is coated. All of the black plastic trim is coated. The wheels are now coated. That was the biggest time crunch there. But we finished every single last detail. So getting in areas like the door jambs here, cleaning all of this out, just making it absolutely perfect in there. Super thrilled with how it came out and really, really impressed with how nice this car now looks. Now the interior, spent a little bit more time on there, scrubbing things down that were still a little bit shiny, but man, this thing just came out so perfect, super satin, and just looks literally like a brand new car. All of the glass now completely dialed in. And let me just pop open the front here and show you how much nicer this interior looks now. Again, this car really just looks like a brand new car. The steering wheel is a lot less shiny. It got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't really take any more of this off, but it is still a little shinier than I would like. But that's one of those areas, a wear and tear item. If they're not really cleaned to begin with, really, really hard to get them back to factory. So a huge buildup of dirt and grime there. But man, oh man, the Taycan looks fantastic here. And I'm actually getting it charged up over here to head home to the customer probably today or tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this out of spec detailing video. I do apologize for the ending of this. I would have liked to shown you cleaning the glass, a little bit more of the finer finishing details, but sometimes you got to take the hand you were given. So thanks so much for joining us on another out of spec detailing video. See you in the next one very, very soon. Bye-bye.